The Neutral.
Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of The Neutral. I'm your host, Amanda Stevens, and this week we have a really great guest. We have I almost said China again. I don't know why I keep doing this. We have JB. You guys may have seen him on ELEAGUE The Challenger. You might have seen him in the ELEAGUE Invitational Season 2, and you probably are watching him on the Street Fighter League this year. So I'm gonna get him up on the call, and we're gonna get right into the action today. So let's see if we can get our lucky guest in. Oh, we've got him. What's good?
Hey.
All right.
How's it going?
I'm doing pretty good. Haven't been feeling well this weekend, so hopefully I'll keep the energy up. All right.
Got it.
So, you came from New York, where you've got, such great names like Smug, Yipes, and then, you're out on the West Coast with names like Stupendous, Dankadillis, Commander Jesse, and then you settled on the name JB.
Yep.
Why such a just like standard stock name?
Watching fighting games, like most of like my idols in fighting games were people who just use their regular names. People like Chris G, like Justin Wong, like people like that. I just thought that it'd be more mature and just cooler to just have something really simple, something that is like your name. So my first name was actually John B, and for some reason art started calling me JB. I don't know why, but it kind of stuck, and then everyone else was calling me JB. So but yeah, the overall point is just that I wanted a very simple name. I didn't want anything that was too crazy. Like some people have names that are way too crazy or too funny, and as we get older, we are trying to do this as a career, right? So as we get older, these names just get sillier and sillier. So yeah, I just wanted something simple.
I mean, but I've also heard that you were close to just doing your full initials, which would make your name Jab.
Oh yeah. So my initials are JAB, and I think Jab would be like such a perfect name. But I mean, no one would know that those are my initials. People are just gonna think that my name is Jab.
What would be wrong with that?
They're just gonna think. Well, they're just gonna think I just chose Jab because of fighting games, and then it wouldn't have been very original. So I don't know. I think JB is better.
All right.
I'm glad I stuck with JB.
Okay. So, I've talked to you a bit outside of the show, and I hear that you're really into first-person shooters, which is something that Shine brought up last week, that he also played a lot of. I believe it was Gears. And
oh, okay.
I know that you play COD, right? Like when you were getting into...
I'm not specifically into just first-person shooters in general. I think I'm just into shooters like as a whole. So third person or first person doesn't really matter. I'm just in a competition, and I feel like shooters was the first thing that got me into competition because they were like one of the first games where you can just go online and compete against other people. Shooters were the ones who allowed you to do that in console before anything else, basically. So yeah, I started playing Call of Duty, and then I transitioned to Gears, and Gears was such a very hard game. So that game taught me how to basically know how to practice and commit to just training, So I think that shooters taught me a lot when it comes to fighting games, but shooters are definitely like the first thing that I ever did when it comes to gaming. So yeah.
Okay. And then how did we get from, being super into Gears and like competing at that level and playing Street Fighter?
I think it has to do with my local scene that was back in New York, which is NOBC.
Mm-hmm.
I kept hearing about it so much, and everyone was talking about it. I was never really into fighting games, but when I heard that Cross Tekken, Street Fighter Cross Tekken was coming out, like who doesn't know what Tekken is and who doesn't know what Street Fighter is. So when I heard that both of those are, like coming together, I had to try the game, because even if I never played fighting games, I know who Ryu is, I know who Akuma was, I knew who Jin and Kazuya and Heihachi were. So basically, Street Fighter Cross Tekken is what got me into fighting games, and then I heard about the local scene, which was, it was increasing in popularity so much, like so many people were talking about it and watching it. So, I started watching tournaments here and there for Street Fighter 4 because Street Fighter Cross Tekken, it was popular at the beginning, but not so much, not too much, So I went to NOBC, and then I just fell in love with just competing there and wanting to get better. I got bodied in like the first couple of tournaments, but eventually I started practicing and watching videos, and I realized that I had a talent for fighting games. So I kind of stuck to it.
All right. So like, what? So like, all right. So I guess the first way we'll start with this is like in Street Fighter 4, who did you like main? Who was like your go-to character?
Well, in Street Fighter 4, I Cross Tekken was actually my like first fighting game. I didn't really play Street Fighter 4, but when because I bought it, but I kind of liked Rufus, so he was like the only character that I played in Street Fighter 4.
All right.
I mean, I played Rufus in Cross Tekken, so
so it works. It worked out. So then,
yeah.
And now over in Street Fighter 5, you're known for your Rashid. Almost to a fault, like because when it got banned at ELEAGUE The Challenger and when it got banned at the Street Fighter League, some not so good things happened. But
yeah.
But like, what attracted you to a character like Rashid?
Well, I'm not really sure. So I tried out a lot of characters at the beginning of Street Fighter 5. I really like Shotos. I like characters that throw fireballs. They're the funnest to watch, because it's just their strategy is so basic, but it's so effective. Like characters like Ryu, it's just, you throw fireballs, you zone your opponent, and then you just basically when they become too desperate, you punish them for it. Which is, like if they start jumping in, you anti-air them and things like that. So I really like Shoto. So I tried to pick Nash in the beginning. I'm not sure if he's really considered a Shoto, but he is like a fireball character, which can also pressure you like really, really well when he gets close to you. So I knew I wanted a character that had good offense, and I also wanted a character that had good mobility and basically was able to just keep an opponent away. I think Nash was such a chunky or clunky character that I wanted someone who was faster and felt more free to use, especially with the awful input delay that Street Fighter 5 had at the beginning. So I realized that Rashid's V reversal was actually just like Nash's, which basically let him get away. You couldn't punish it. It didn't have a hitbox in Season 1. And then I also saw that Rashid was like an offensive monster when once I tried Rashid out and I saw how offensive he was, and then he can also just get out the corner really easy with his V reversal, I kind of fell in love with Rashid.
Okay. I brought up ELEAGUE The Challenger, and from what I understand from talking to like Sherry and Rob TV and listening to a lot of people who were on it, there was sort of an open casting call, and then you applied for it, and then they got back to you and, you had like an interview. But what at the time made you think like, oh, I can get on this easy?
Actually, when it comes to ELEAGUE The Challenger, I don't think I applied for that, if I remember correctly. I think I actually received an email from them and asking me if I wanted to apply. I think that's what it was. So I didn't directly apply. They sent me an email saying that they were interested, and they told me to apply for it or basically have an interview with them. So I had a video interview, kind of like, like what we're doing now. And I think that's what got me on the show. But the fact that they were interested in me is obviously what made me think that I could get on it. I was like, NOBC gave me such a great chance at being on the show because I feel like the other people who were in it were way more popular than I was and had more of a following and, just more of a presence on social media and everything else than I did. But I think it's because of Next Level Battle Circuit and basically the platform that it gave me is what made me be able to, get on ELEAGUE The Challenger. Yeah, it's because of me performing well at NOBC.
Okay. So when you you knew it was gonna be like part reality show and not just straight up competing against people,
Hmm.
you're sort of known as a more reserved person, right? Like you're not a person that really like shoots off their mouth too much or anything. Were you worried about like kind of being being not like the hypest person? Like you had like people like Low Tier God on and like Guilty and like Rob TV, people who have like these really big personalities, and then there's you.
I wasn't worried at all. I mean, when it comes to a competition, I always think about the game first before anything else. I know there are a lot of people who are trying to force personalities, and there are a lot of people who think that you need to be a personality in order to succeed. That's not my way of thinking. And even if I'm wrong, I don't want to be right. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to succeed by only being a personality. Like I want to worry about the game first because competition is what I love the most. I wasn't really worried about it. I just told myself I was going to go in there and I was going to compete, which is what I was there to do, and let everything else basically I would just go with the flow basically.
Okay. And so I remember when I was watching the Born Free interview that you did last year when I was preparing to talk to you today, you had
Hmm.
brought up that like you felt very confident in your matchups of the people that were in the house.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah. So, like, of the people that were there, how many of them had you had like a lot of firsthand experience against, though? Or were you just basing this more on like character matchup?
Oh, what do you mean by first-hand experience? Like people who have actually fought
Yeah,
before,
like how many people?
like
Like
in the
was
game?
everybody at the house people you had already like played a decent amount against, or were you just kind of like, I know this person plays this and I know this person plays that, so I think I'm pretty set.
No, the only person that I actually played from the house was Commander Jesse. And at the time, not really much because I had just moved to California. So that was like maybe I had like about maybe like 1 month of experience playing against him from going to Wednesday night fights.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about it. I was just really confident with Dawson because of, in Next Level Battle Circuit, we had Art. And at the time, Art was like the best Dawson in the world. So he taught all of us to match up really well. So I was really confident against Commander Jesse because he played Dawson. The only person I was pretty worried about was Rob TV, and that's because he played Gao. And at the time, that was hands down Rashid's worst matchup, and it was really difficult. And he was the only person I was like basically worried about. Everyone else I knew I had a good matchup with, and I was just confident against them in general.
All right, what was your favorite moment of being on the Challenger? Like, was there anything that like happened at the house that you were like, oh man, that's like a fond memory?
Oh man, that's that's so difficult because literally every day that we were there was such a memorable time. I mean, we went to so many places, we did so many things. The house challenges were such an experience, like when they made us do a time trial by looking at a mirror, that yeah, I mean, pretty much part of it. We basically got to live our lives with other people because it's not like they forced us to do anything. They just gave us the house. They gave us a roof, a couple of stations to play in. We had a gym there. We had a kitchen. It was like we were living with roommates basically who were also gamers. And I mean, the whole experience was just amazing. And I don't really know how to describe it. But if I had to choose like the most memorable moment, I think it would be every single time that I was in the elimination room. So, they had like this little
Mm-hmm.
chamber where a player would get eliminated, whether I was playing or I wasn't. It was just such like you can feel the intensity in everyone just by being there. Everyone was so nervous, especially the people who were playing because they had a chance to go to ELEAGUE, and ELEAGUE, it has the big bucks. So,
Yeah.
you know, um, it was basically like we were witnessing people's dreams come true or their dreams being shattered. So it was so intense, and I love things like that. I love it when I have an adrenaline rush and my heart is racing, and like you don't know what's coming next. So I think that that was my most favorable moment. Just basically every single time that we were in that chamber, which was, I mean, every day because someone got eliminated every day. So, yeah.
All right, and then you got to be on ELEAGUE with a lot of really big names. Were you were like, I know from talking to some people that like you either like they either want to like rise to the challenge, right? Like they're just like, oh man, I don't care that this person is this person, right? But did you go in with any sort of like knowledge, like I think I can crush this, like I think I can win ELEAGUE, or were you just like I just want to do my best?
Well, I'm as confident. So what happens is that I'm a person who practices a lot, and what happens when you practice a lot is that it gives you this confidence in your gameplay that people who don't really practice don't have. And I think that's because you trained for that and you know that you're playing to the best of your ability. So if anything goes wrong, it was out of your control. So what's the point of being nervous, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically my secret to always being confident is that I make sure that whenever I go into something, I'm prepared. So I mean, I knew there were world-class players, and I knew that there were some things that I couldn't prepare for. Like, for example, people who had Rashid matchup knowledge. Like there's nothing I can do about that. Especially the Japanese players who have so many Rashids. So against them, I wasn't as confident, but I was still pretty confident. It's just because I trained for them, and I watched so many matches, and I practiced so much before ELEAGUE that I was confident. It didn't matter who was there. I want to be there someday. So in order to get there, I have to prepare myself. So yeah.
Okay, and you brought this up a lot just now about training. Every player has a different way of training. Like I know when I've talked to F Champ, he says that like he starts his day playing StarCraft so that he puts his brain on a different axis from fighting games before he gets into doing any fighting game work. What is your sort of like training regimen or like practice sessions look like?
Basically, my training is that I watch matches during my free time. And whenever I see something that confuses me or something that I didn't know existed or, you can do in a specific matchup, I go to training mode and I try to find something that Rashid can do about it. So when you watch matches, it's kind of like the secret. It's kind of like a shortcut. You know how they say there aren't any shortcuts,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that watching matches is kind of like the shortcut because it's so effortless and people will figure things out for you, especially if you watch top players. Like I only watch top players. I don't really watch like ranked matches or anything like that, including if it's like top players. I watch tournaments, high level tournaments where it's like top 16, top 8. And basically I watch matches, I let other players find things for me, and then I find an answer that Rashid has for that specific scenario. But I make sure that I don't only watch and play Street Fighter. I feel like not it's not very productive, because what's going to happen is that you're going to get tired of playing the game and watching the game, and it's going to feel more of like a job or more of like a chore instead of, just having fun and training because you want to get better. So what I do is that I make sure that I have other things to play, So one thing that I'm playing the most right now is Apex, and Apex is something that I do. I don't train or anything in that. I just hop on the game and I play. And I think that to have other of, just Street Fighter or your job, it's very important. So that's basically what I do. I make sure I have something on the side, something that I play a lot. Like right now, like I said, I was playing Apex, and then when I want to train or when I feel like it, I just watch some matches and then I go to training mode and then practice those things. And then the final step is to invite a friend or something like that who picks that character that you're trying to figure something out for, and then just apply what you practiced. And that's basically it.
Okay. So, you're playing some Apex Legends right now, and one of the things that comes up a lot when we talk is that you value taking the time outside of your job, which is currently Street Fighter, to, like, do other things, to, like, have a life outside of Street Fighter. So, like, right now, what is your jam outside of fighting games? Outside of video games in general? Like, what is the non-video game side of JB right now?
Well, honestly, I don't think there really is one. um, yeah, I've been playing video games for so long in my life, to the point where, at some point I was like really antisocial, and I was living in New York. NOBC kind of saved me from that because it's a place where I got to socialize and meet new people and learn how to make new friends. But I mean, video games have been a part of my life forever, and I kind of like it that way. I'm not a person who likes to go out and go to parties and do, I don't know, like do things that adolescents and young adults do. I am the happiest when I'm playing video games and just chatting with friends while playing the video games also. So that's it. I think that's actually my entire life. It's just waking up, playing video games, and I don't know. I mean, I watch like anime sometimes. I watch movies here and there. I go out with my girlfriend, of course, Chelsea, but that's about it.
I mean, I hope you watch anime because I think by now enough people have told you look like Spike Spiegel. And I'm
Who? Is that the guy from Cowboy Bebop?
Have you not watched Cowboy Bebop?
No, I've never seen it.
I think this interview has to be over now. Because the last time I saw Chelsea, I was like, your boyfriend kind of looks like Spike Spiegel. Has anyone ever told him that? And she was like, I think someone has. And I was like, that's the cosplay opportunity right there. Like, so low key, so easy.
Yeah. I don't think anyone has ever told me, and if they did, maybe I didn't understand who the hell Spike was. But I have gotten a Joker from Persona 5 a couple of times.
That's a pretty good one too.
Yeah.
All right.
But that's basically it.
Okay. But I also hear you're into fashion, so like that means that you have to eventually leave the video games behind. Like, I'm tripping over my words, but like how did you get into that? Because as an antisocial person, because like I know I was also antisocial in high school, so I wasn't really into a lot of like trends. I just found this stuff that like I'm gonna sound like a little bit like a weeb, but like whatever my mom picked out for me is like what I would just like wear. So like what made you like get into fashion?
I mean, I'm not too big on fashion, like to the point where I go out of my way to make sure, I look fashionable for a day or something like that. What it is that I'm from New York, of course, and everyone there is just, they always worry about how they look, what they're wearing on their feet, especially what they're wearing on their feet. New York is all about sneakers. You can wear the dumbest outfit, but if you have good sneakers, for some reason people will give you props. I don't know, but maybe that's what it is. Like I never liked that idea because people would always compliment your sneakers and then you can look like a bum. And if you have good sneakers, people would still like the way you're dressed, and I kind of hated that. I feel like part of looking good is your whole outfit. And basically so when I moved to California, I just I made sure that I focused more on my fashion so I didn't look like that, because people out here do care more about their fashion than what they're just wearing on their feet, so they care more about everything, like the whole outfit in general. So maybe that's what it is now. I want to not just have good sneakers, what my clothes are, and I look fine. You're not going to be young forever, so I like to focus on my looks a little more, sometimes than other people. But yeah.
All right. Now, you made that move from New York to California. What would you say is like, do you think, I've always wondered about this. Do you think that there's like a different fighting style between like the way California FGC plays versus like the way NOBC plays?
No, I don't think so. But I definitely think that there's a difference with how the players train. Or so I noticed that when I came out to California, like players have individual groups of friends, like there's like a group of 4 here, a group of 4 there, and a group of 4 there, and they don't train with each other. When I was in the East Coast, the entirety of our local was one big family, where we all trained with each other. And I didn't really get that vibe over here, So that would be the only difference. But in terms of the way they play, I think that everyone in America plays the same, and we all play like nuts, I don't know. I don't know why that is. Maybe that's why people like watching the Asian players more because they're way more creative with the way they play. And I mean, there are some exceptions, of course. Like you have like Justin Wong, who his gameplay you can tell just that it's him, even if you don't see the name, you'll know that it's him, right? People like Punk, people like Snake Eyes, I think has a very unique play style. Chris T. There are so many. So if I don't name some, don't get offended, but there are a lot of US players that do have their personality, but I think like in general most of the population in the US, and there are so many of us, but most of like the mid to high level players all play like very similar, they all play like very nutty characters, and they don't really want to have their own. I don't know. Or maybe that is their personality. Maybe they want to be more aggressive, but I just think that's how the American players play
Okay.
in general, yeah.
All right. So we haven't touched on it yet, and you've got it coming up on Thursday, but you're in the Street Fighter League, on your team, and last week they finally decided that it was time to ban Rashid, and not let you run amok being a living fidget spinner. So like when you heard, because you knew that there were going to be bans coming into this, how worried were you that you were going to be someone like IDOM who just gets like permanently targeted out?
Well, I was worried before I got picked for the team that I'm in now. Because if I got picked on a team that has all character specialists, then obviously there will be a time where I'm gonna get banned. But as soon as Punk chose me, I didn't care if I ever got banned. I mean, because if you let his Karen, free, there is no way. I don't think that team has a possibility of winning. If he's able to pick Karen, because he is so high up, in the skill gap or in skill level that if you let his Karen go, I don't see how we're gonna lose. Like it sucks to have to. It does suck to have to rely on him to win the match, but in the end, it is a team tournament, And if there's nothing I can do about it, then there's nothing I can do about it. If they ban Rashid, so as soon as Punk chose me, I wasn't afraid at all. I was really confident that no matter who they banned, because I'm confident in myself and I play Rashid, and Rashid is such a good character this season. He's like top 2. So as soon as he chose me, I knew that we were going to be okay. So I was really confident.
All right. Did you think about like, all right, I'm going to be in this thing. It's got character bans. Maybe I should start picking up just like a secondary, like really focus some time into learning an additional character? Or were you just like, all right, I already know a couple of other characters. If they ban Rashid, they ban Rashid, and like hopefully my team carries me?
Well, you see, that's the whole reason why so many people were complaining about the character bans. It's not just easy to say, oh shoot, I'm in a competition where my character can get banned, so I have to train. Like some characters take years and years, to perfect. It's not as easy as just saying I'm going to learn a new character and I'm going to, because you can do that, but there's no way that you're going to be able to beat people who have been playing their characters for these past 3 years, So I practiced to a point where I said, okay, I'm just going to practice the fundamental aspect of a character and just try to apply from what I see in matches from other top players. But there was no way within the small time gap that I had from winning the qualifier to the beginning of Street Fighter League where I can actually train a character to be at a high level. So what I did instead is just that I trained more of my Rashid and made sure that my Rashid was ready if my Rashid wasn't banned. So like that's the main reason why people were complaining about the character bans. It's because it's not just easy to learn a new character. It takes a long, long time. There are some people who can do it, but those people have been playing fighting games for decades or, so many years to the point where they understand characters differently than other people. Me, I am very new to fighting games, so I have no idea how to approach learning a new character.
Okay.
So yeah, I trained most of Rashid and then a little bit of Birdie. Just watch some matches and just try to apply it when I played. It didn't go very well this past week, but I mean it's okay because we still got the W. So
I mean, yeah, but like everybody's birdie hasn't been looking that great. So like you just continued the
hmm
Street Fighter League trend of like mediocre secondary birdies. But I mean, like,
yeah.
so personally, do you now that you've been on the other side of the ban, what is your opinion on bans? Do you kind of wish that they weren't a part of the Street Fighter League, or do you see value in them even if like it's not something that works well for you?
Hmm. I honestly think that if there were no bans, the tournament would have been pretty boring. Uh, Maybe not for the spectators. Maybe the spectators wanted to watch everyone play at the highest level, but for us who were there, I feel like the bans was something that brought a fun aspect to it. It wasn't just hardcore competition because there were moments where Idom is gonna pick his birdie and his birdie is very subpar. So it would make for fun times. We would laugh, and then especially if like who was it? I think it was Toy. It was Toy versus just wait, no, I have no idea. Somebody, no, it wasn't Toy. Somebody picked like a secondary character and actually did. Who was it?
Was it
I'm
up
not
to
sure.
snuff
It
playing
could have
his
actually.
Akuma versus
Oh,
Punk?
wait. Yeah. It was actually when Up to Snuff almost beat Punk with Akuma.
Yeah.
Like people were like extremely surprised at that. Like his Nikali has been making so much noise, out here in the West Coast, and he's been so strong lately. And so no one knew that if you ban his Nikali, which is why Punk banned his Nikali, obviously, because he knew that his Nikali is really strong. So when he picked Akuma and almost beat Punk, it was Punk's Colleen, right? But his Colleen is world class. Punk's Colleen is just as good as everyone else's character. So the fact that he almost got him, was it Colleen or was it Cammy? I feel like it was Colleen, right?
Yeah, I think it was.
Um, but it doesn't matter who Punk picks. Whatever. Whatever character he picks, a world class character. So the fact that he almost got him, it got all of us really scared. The people that were watching were laughing. Like the other players that were watching, they wanted Punk to lose, obviously, and it was it made for some fun time. So I think that without the ban, it would have been just very one dimensional. And I don't think it would have been as fun. The whole point of it isn't just for competition, because that's why we have the Capcom Pro Tour. They wanted to throw a monkey wrench in what we already know. And I think because it's a team tournament, it's okay. If it was like a 1v1, that would have
No, I
been
would
really
not be
weird.
a fan of that.
Yeah, exactly. So because it's a team tournament, because you have teammates that you can rely on, I feel like it's okay. I don't think it was a problem.
Okay. We're heading into week 5. Right? Yeah, week 5. Is there a team that you think people are sort of like sleeping on? Like, obviously, like I think everyone agrees that like the top 2 teams are Team Gale, Dokudu's team, and your team with Punk, Team Inferno. But do you think that there's a team that you think once they hit their rhythm, like they could go for that number 1 spot?
Well, there are 2 teams actually. I think okay. So first, let me start off with I think that Nephew's team is a team that's really strong.
Oh God, everyone keeps saying that team.
He got really lucky because he got to pick 6th and then 1st when it came to the next round. So he got to pick 2 people in a row. And he got very strong players. They're not as strong as like the captains, of course, but they're still strong and just as strong as everyone else who's not a captain. So I think that Nephew's team is really well-rounded, and he didn't get stuck with anyone that he didn't want because he chose them, and he got to choose them twice, basically. But so I think the Nephew's team is really good, but the real sleepers I think are teams like Idom's team and Toy's team. So I think that obviously Toy is going to get banned because everyone thinks that Toy is the strongest in his team. So they're going to instead they're gonna ban Toy obviously, and that leaves it up to El Chicote and Just a Kid. And I think that those two are just really strong in general. And any one of them can OCV any given team, So I think that team is really strong. But I think that IDOM's team is actually the real sleeper. I know that IDOM is going to continue to get banned, right? And he has been getting banned. And I think that means that Samurai Zakuma can get comfortable with, just having to play, or having an OCV like him in Classical, right? But I think that Samurai is a little stronger than Classical, so Samurai is going to be the one who Item is going to rely on. And what's going to happen is that Samurai is going to continue playing, just Akuma, and he's just going to be really comfortable against everyone. And I think that he can possibly just carry the team on his back because he's such a strong player. I actually think that Samurai is just as strong as the captains. So I think Idom's team is a very heavy sleeper. Everyone was laughing at Idom and making fun of him because they thought he was done. Nobody wanted to be on his team. Trust me, the energy during the draft phase when Idom was picking, it was like you can hear the crickets outside because no one wanted to be picked by Idom. But I think that because he got Samurai, I think that he actually made possibly the best choice. I think Samurai is such a strong player, and I think that he can actually carry the team by himself. And then he has Classical to help him, whenever he needs him.
I think that sort of answers sort of my next question, which was, removing yourself from the equation, who do you think is the strongest non-captain? And I think it's sounding like you're saying that it's Samurai.
It's in my opinion, it's definitely Samurai. And after that, I would say, if we're talking about the people who are getting banned, like if we're including the people who are getting their characters banned, like just in general of how strong you are, I think that Idom is I think that's a no-brainer. Idom is just, he doesn't travel much, but when Idom plays, it's the scariest thing in the world, no matter who is playing against him. So I think that Idom is actually the strongest there out of the non. Wait, actually no, Idom is a captain. What the hell am I?
I was gonna let you catch yourself.
Yeah. Sorry. But yeah, Idom is the captain. So it has to be Samurai. Yeah, obviously Samurai.
All right. So we're talking about you brought up that Idom is one of the scariest people in the world. Who is somebody that, like, when you're looking at pools, or even like you get out of pools and you're like, yes, I made it into top 64 or top 32. Who is someone that you like look and you're like, why do I have to play this guy? Why me? Like, why? Like, who's your roadblock?
I think that I can't really think of anyone. The only person that I can think of would be like Punk. Because I hate playing against them. In order to play against them, you have to prepare yourself like mentally, and because if you and you play so differently to the point where you're just gonna get ran over. So at a tournament, he's like the worst person to play. So I think it would only be him. After that, maybe it would be like any Geef player. Any Geef player that's in my pool, I just get so scared. I hate that character so much, and even though the character gets mauled in neutral, like he's so easy to anti-air, he has a very floaty jump. He as soon as he gets a meter, and as soon as he gets V-trigger, it's a whole different game. So it's definitely Geef.
Okay. Now I like starting beef, and I made Shine do this last week, so it's your turn. Which is there anybody that you see, and I don't want you to be weak about this. Is there anybody that you see where you're like, all right, I don't have to, this person I can just go next. I can just worry about the next person after him.
Well, what do you mean, like in Street Fighter League or in a tournament?
In the tournament, like in a tournament setting, you like see this person coming up in your path to victory, and you're like, all right, free. And don't give me this everybody's a strong competitor, so nobody's free nonsense.
It would be well, I don't have a specific person, but in my opinion, it would be any Dawson player. You know, if I run into a Dawson player,
So,
I'm
so you're saying
very
I can tell
confident.
Commander Jesse that you think he's easy?
Yeah, if he's gonna pick Dawson, then yes. If he's gonna, yeah, his calling is pretty strong, and he's been practicing calling for a while. So if I know he's gonna pick calling, which he probably is because Dawson is such a bad matchup. I mean, Rashid is such a bad matchup for Dawson. But if it's any Dawson player, yeah, I'm very confident that I'm gonna end up winning. I have never seen myself like be afraid of a Dawson player at all.
All right. Now we're gonna start wrapping this up, but I
Okay.
know from previous times that especially from talking to Chelsea that like when you guys go to a tournament, you guys like try to do something dope in that city. You know, especially when you're out, so that like you get to enjoy the traveling that you do. Is there a
Mm-hmm.
city that you've been to that you think is like S tier for doing
Ooh.
stuff? Can't be New York, can't be where you're living in California. But like, is there a city that you're like, oh man, I can't wait to go to this event because at least if I like O2, like I get to do blank.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, so here's the deal. Whenever I traveled to so many tournaments
Mm-hmm.
before I actually met Chelsea, and not once that I ever went sightseeing, or did I ever go sightseeing, or just visiting around the area in general. Chelsea is actually the one who got me into that, and I think it's very important for players to do that when they go to tournaments. I know that the competition is first. Sorry to go off like track, but
Yeah, no, it's fine.
I know that the competition is first, but I think that what we're doing is not something that we're going to be doing forever or can do forever. So I think that we should enjoy it while we can. I mean, we are going to tour, especially those people that are sponsored. Like you guys should actually be maybe get there a day early if you can. Go sightseeing, go enjoy your human life more than. It's not all about the competition all the time. Sometimes because the years pass by so fast when you play competitive fighting games, because you're always out, you're always traveling, and before you know it, 3 years, 4 years have passed. So I think it's very important to visit. So basically what I'm trying to say is that I haven't really gotten too much experience with sightseeing in certain cities,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that my absolute favorite place would have to be Seattle. I think that Seattle is one of the most. I mean, it reminded me a lot of New York. So you told me not to talk about New York, but yeah, it reminded me a lot of New York, and because I like cities, I like
Mm-hmm.
where there are a lot of buildings and a lot of stores and places to go. So yeah, I mean, I went up on the Space Needle in Seattle, and I went like visiting around the area. I went to the Pike Place Market,
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh, the place is great.
those places are so beautiful, and I think like maybe a close second. Maybe it's hmm, maybe like Atlanta is a really cool place too. Atlanta has that Ponce Market,
Yeah.
which is like really nice for visitors and tourists. And I mean, I haven't really gone to many places to be honest. I mean, I've gone to many places, but I haven't really traveled and like really got the states that I'm in or the places that I'm in as much. So but that's in the country. I haven't really been out of the country yet. I mean, I went to Mexico, and Mexico was beautiful, and the food there was delicious, and there were so many things to do there. But again, I didn't really go around much when I went to Mexico. So
All right. Uh, so we're at the end of the interview, which is a sad time for me because I get to I have to stop talking to
yeah,
you. But is there
I was
anybody?
having fun.
Yeah, no, it's I love doing this. The reason I love doing this show is like I love fighting games and it gives me an excuse to talk to dope FGC people. But is there anybody that you want to shout out? Any sponsors you got to tag? It's the time. It's the time to show.
I mean, shout out Denial, of course. They're the ones who are making everything possible for me this year. So shout outs to everyone who's watching, of course. Thanks, guys. I know I have a monotone voice. I don't really express many emotions, but thanks for watching, and just shout out to everyone trying to do their thing, playing video games. And like I said, if you travel a lot, make sure you go sightseeing and make sure you visit the area that you're in. Don't just go for the tournament, which is fun in itself, but I think we should make it worth it.
All right. And remember, guys, to check out JB's Twitter, tryhardjb. I think you stream sometimes, right?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, everything is on my Twitter, so
okay. So if you hit up the Twitter,
reach out to me.
If you see the Twitter, then you'll find all the stuff. For me, make sure to tune in every week. We're gonna have a new guest next week, I believe. Yeah, next week is Logan Sama. So
that's a good one.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about the EU FGC scene and talk about Winner Stay On. And make sure if you guys like the show and you want to see me do more of the show, make sure to hit up that Patreon. Subscribe to that. Because Twitch doesn't pay out as frequently for a small streamer, so Patreon is the better way to support the show. And until next time, remember to go beyond plus ultra and peace.
Bye, guys.